Welcome. 45 RPNs is back. We got Ernie Ends here and Nigel Bart at GPAC. This is almost like a reunion of sorts. We've been away from it for almost 2 years, I'd say, or a year and a half, I'd say. So we got, we're sitting here on Treaty Territory 1 in Carmen, Manitoba. And it's what's the weather like out there, Ernie? It kind of spun us again. Every time we do these 45 RPNs, the weather is like in Carmen is like the what do you call it? The Twilight Zone.
I guess so.
It's because it was so warm, is mild here, and I don't know how far that stretched, but we were like in a bubble of like cloud and warm air, like really warm for February and January for like 3 weeks, almost a month. Whoa. And now we got freezing again, so at least it's back to normal.
Well, this is more normal what we have now, but it's still not cold.
No, it's mild. Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
No, we've been lucky. It has been an unusual winter. You know, we've had thaws before in January and in February. You get the odd day.
Yeah.
But never for weeks on end, you know. And there was I think it was last week, it never froze even overnight. Like it was amazing.
Do you think it's this global warming of like cars, like carbon dioxide and just the ozone depletion and all that? Do you believe that?
Well, I hate to think that, but you never know. I saw a thing today. I was watching news in the morning because I was going to see if there are any road closures and that sort of thing. And they always have these captions underneath. And it said on there that we just, in the last year, like in 2023, was the warmest January in world history. Yeah. And so it said that. So it was like, well, has that got to do with global warming?
Yeah. Well, the connection, I don't know. Like, I think there's obviously something like this where the world population is like at its highest ever.
Yeah.
So all the people, everything from people that we make, and you know, it's just it's causing a lot of warming. So we have an impact, I think. So
yes, the population I doubt it will ever go down.
No, but it does. COVID kind of thinned the population, I'd say, a bit.
Yeah, maybe, but hardly enough to make a dent. Like, it's just, it's pretty hard to stop.
Yeah.
Something like a population boom.
Yeah. Wonder if they're doing, like, research on like, disease control and how that affects. We shouldn't go there, because it's just...
Shouldn't go there, no. That's
it's too heavy, eh?
That's a heavy subject.
Let's talk music, because we're here to talk music, collecting, and whatever in between. And my friend Ernie's wearing his Bob Seger shirt. I love it.
Bob Seger t-shirt.
1973. The Silver Bullet Band shirt. Yeah.
I saw these guys live, but not in 73. Not on this tour, but I saw them in 1975.
Is that a tour shirt, or is it?
Yeah. It's got all the cities in the back.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, there you go. That's where it was.
But I didn't see this particular tour. When I saw them would have been 2 years later, which would have been in their 75 tour. And it was August. It was August. Oh, I should know this. Summer in August anyway. I saw them live in Winnipeg, and they opened for... Actually, they were a no-name band. And I think I've talked about this before, like in our earlier podcast, but because it was my first concert, I think I've alluded to it before. But,
yeah.
But there was a no-name band opening for BTO, Backman Turner Overdrive. And I love Backman Turner Overdrive, still do.
Yeah.
And so when I went to see them, and this no-name band opened for them, and it was Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet.
Oh,
I'd never heard of them.
Yeah.
And after they played, I thought, there will never be a better band than this. There's way better than BTO. They're just awesome.
Right.
I was mesmerized by Bob Seger. And I still think Bob Seger is better live than he is on his record. Even now when I listen
there
to
are
it.
A few of them.
Because if you buy the Live Bullet album,
and
that's a double album, you listen to it, it was recorded in Detroit the same week as I saw them.
Yeah.
So that's the sound I heard. But anyway, so I saw them, and it was just awesome. And then BTO came on, they were even better, you know?
Yeah.
So when you go to your first concert, it's like,
Yeah.
it was just unbelievable. And then BTO came on, and they were even better than Bob Seger. Like,
Right.
just, you know, you never forget your first.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of like experts in music, I was, you know, our next episode show, we're gonna try to invite a guest speaker into the mix, and
Nice.
you know, this person who I'm thinking is quite an expert in music. I'm not gonna say the name, but you know, we're gonna spice it up in our next what do you call it? Series, not a series, episode. Yeah, that's right. But I'm so happy you're here, Ernie. Like,
Well, I've been thinking that over the past year. It's always, oh man, should do a podcast. And if you don't do it, you won't do it, right? It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So,
but there's serendipity here, because I took a walk this morning, and lo and behold, I see this gentleman walking down the street with a gaggle of women tossing their brassieres at you.
I know.
On the street, just screaming, "There goes Ernie!"
Yeah, I know.
And so what I ran off and I started screaming, "Ernie!" And sure enough, he turned and he passed me a golden pick.
Yeah.
And anyways, I asked Ernie, "Would you do a podcast with me?" And yes, we're back on the air, just like that. Serendipity.
There you go. Yeah.
But
Yeah. No.
so you've been playing a lot yourself?
Yeah. Actually, we have a gig coming up on the 15th, which is next Thursday. We're playing at the Meadowwood restaurant, and we've done it before, but we've been asked to come there again. And then on the 24th, which is I believe a Saturday. I think it's a Saturday. We're doing a house concert in town here.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And so we've done a house concert before, but it's still pretty new concept, you know, and I look
Yeah.
forward to it. So,
Yeah.
but that's coming up, and so there we'll be able to, like the Meadowwood thing will be kind of reserved songs, gentle lounge type music, country, folk, and that sort of thing. Whereas the house concert, you can start to be artistic, right?
Yeah.
You haul out your original material, and you try to do it as good as you can in a live atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to that.
Super good.
We haven't done the set list for that one yet, but I'm thinking we'll do a lot of original stuff there.
Super good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I know you guys always put on like a polished presentation. It's good. I like listening to you guys.
Yeah. And what I like about what we do, like the way we do it, is we're constantly doing new songs. Like I always have 2 or 3 songs ready to go that I've worked on them, that sort of thing, and to present to the band. And you present it to the band. Once you know the song, it's easy for everybody to learn it. So I have a few that are ready to go and that we've never done yet.
Right.
And that
Well,
sort of thing.
it's
So,
new material. It's like you got a certain way of doing it, so it's actually like built into routine almost. So it's a very good thing what you're doing.
yeah.
And I always think of, like, you know, the buzzword around here, and you know, in the new, like, whatever, the new times is like like these, you know, creativity in music especially is something that I think helps with our mental health totally. Like, and we were talking about addiction and lots in the past, and things like, you know, I look at these kids who a lot of kids, a lot of adults too, who get sort of spun in different areas of their life, and they turn to drugs and alcohol to cope with life, when, you know, if they knew the magic, or not the magic, but the healthy lifestyle of, like, what music, like playing an instrument and singing and or like painting or things like that, can, like, really make you healthy. Like, so I really think that, like, being in tune with yourself in sort of the spiritual, creative way. I use spiritual because it's sort of like like more of your core energy, you know, like music is a good way of balancing yourself.
Yeah.
So, and it's a good way to stay away from trouble.
Yeah.
I think trouble.
Yeah,
ways,
I always
you know?
say, like, my motto kind of is, don't do drugs, buy a guitar and you could be high all the time.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I agree with it.
And if you bought a guitar, you learned a few notes, and you write your first song, you'll
Yeah.
never have a better feeling
Yeah.
about you wrote that song. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's like you've given birth to something. You know,
But it's so tragic too when the other side takes over. Like, I mean, there's so many artists. Like we've gone into that and we've done whole episodes on that.
yeah,
How like the 27 Club and all those folks, and it's still happening. And it's like, it's like,
see, that's what success and money will do.
yeah,
but
you're right.
to have a guitar, play music, and write songs, you may go that direction anyway, but hopefully not. But it's a lot safer because you don't have the money, right?
Yeah.
And you make it big, you have the money, and money will do funny things to a lot of people. So,
Yeah. I agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
So
So
it's good to be poor.
I agree, man.
It's
It's good to be poor. It's, and when things are hard to get, it's even better because you work harder sometimes.
Well, when we started this podcast, what did we talk about? We talk about music and the hunt for music.
Well, yes, there
in other
you go.
words, the want.
The desire.
The desire and the want. And it doesn't have to go just for music. It's everything else.
And
in life.
curiosity, too, I like
Yeah.
to throw in there. Like,
Yeah.
looking for that one song that just, like, and keep looking. Like, there's nothing wrong with curiosity, like a healthy curiosity,
Yeah.
a healthy appetite, like healthy fish are hungry fish, too.
Yeah, if you
And,
transfer that over to life or work or something, you call it goals, right? You have
Yeah,
goals in
goals,
life,
yeah.
you know? And,
Yeah.
and so,
I think in this day and age, a lot of people somehow get their hands on everything. Somehow, like, it comes all at once. Like, you get
Yeah.
access to everything.
yeah.
And that's the end to me. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
worse than getting everything at once. And that's
Yeah.
where I see a problem when people get their hands on everything at once.
Yeah.
It's over because you experience everything so quickly. There's nothing hopeful about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's good to have that appetite for something you've never had.
Exactly.
You know, like when we were growing up, Ernie,
Oh, we had nothing. And
we had nothing.
And, and I always say, it's another thing I say is that I'm very thankful that I grew up in a home or grew up very poor,
Yeah.
because now, to this day, I still enjoy everything and I appreciate all the things I have,
Yeah.
because of the desire and the want that I had when I was young.
Yeah.
And so it's worth something, it's worth quite a bit, actually.
I think it's immensely invaluable.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. That's the word I
there's
was
no
looking
way
for, yeah.
that people who grow up with this sense of longing for and just like knowing that money doesn't grow on trees or like those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And that you have to really work hard, and sometimes it never comes to. And if the more
No.
you realize that, like I think the worst thing in life is to gain a sense of sort of entitlement that it's just going to come to me no matter what.
Well, that's very
And
prevalent.
it happens to that a lot to people
Yeah.
that it does, but that's sort of a dangerous place to land in when you just sort of expect things to land your way. And I think a lot of the stars people who've gone through the star, sort of the Hollywood starness of life, suddenly get a twisted look at themselves and just think, well, it's always going to be here. And then suddenly it's not. And then suddenly it's like, oh God, they think it's over. And then, I mean, that's a theory I have, but I think there's some accuracy to
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's another thing too about life in general. Whatever you have, don't take it for granted. And I found that out so often in life that something, all of a sudden, it's gone.
I know,
That type of thing.
I know,
So
I know.
you can't really take anything for granted.
You can't.
So
And you really have to at times, it's like the genuine nature of human relationship connection to me is like, without that, like there's nothing, like you could sit on a mountaintop and have everything you want, like everything physical that you want, even like relationships that are just physical. But
Yeah.
unless you have a core, genuine relationship with someone, it's nothing in life.
Yeah.
You know, like a trusting relationship with someone. There's nothing else.
Yeah. Everyone needs a friend.
But you know, I was thinking of you know, poets and writers and musicians and the creative thinkers out there often, you know, I almost think that a lot of them get used for their, like, used up. You know, there's sort of like a theory that, like, a lot of folks who are creative writers, like songwriters, and who, you know, they break ice like crazy. Like they come up with the ideas that generate trends and like in markets and like industry. So like you look at artists like the BTO, like they started trends, and they were Bob Seger, and just like, you know, everyone's dressing like those guys. And
Well,
everyone
that's
was,
the Beatles. That was the Beatles.
well, even the Seeger band,
was-
Silver Bullet band, like these things are just.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that they propel trends and they drive industry, and yet when they put their stuff out there in the past, they haven't been compensated for everything they put out. So there's been a lot of sort of hurt over the lack of like copyright, etc. That has been, like, I think in our decade, my decade, like the 90s era, there's been some ability through the digital age to control copyright and royalty and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, but otherwise, like it was sort of a free game. Like people would sort of like take albums and just like bootleg them, sort of, you know.
Oh. Yeah. Ever since the internet, just everybody does it type thing.
Well, I mean, now it's literally almost impossible to bootleg something. Like there's no way you can do it. Like, I mean, unless you have an old tape machine, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like I think we're getting to a place where I think artists are able to retain copyright. So I think there's good parts of what's happening now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow the new music and how it all works. You know,
Well,
I want
I mean,
something I can hold in my hand. You know, I'm old school.
yeah, that's the old way of copywriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good part of it. Like, you're a collector.
Yeah.
So nowadays, like, you cannot duplicate a digital recording without breaking copyright. Like, it'll machine to machine. There's no machine to machine on digital. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, if I try to upload a song from, you know, like These Eyes
Right.
and I try to upload it, even try to record it on a digital machine, it won't record. Like, it just muffles it, because you know, these ways you can't upload it, you can't share it, because the social medias block it, because it's copyright infringement. So that's how it works.
Oh.
That's why we don't share any music on this podcast, because it immediately would get blocked and we could not share it.
Okay.
So like, I've tried sharing even my songs, which were up on an app, and they would block them because
Really?
it's a certain, just as an app, it's copyrighted.
Yeah.
So,
So they just assume that they can take your song, I guess.
no, you can't take a song,
No,
is
but
what you
they,
can.
like you said, they caught.
Well, yeah, it's if you're with a social media site or with your Apple Music, or you're
okay.
copyrighted with like an agent or whatever. You are locked in. Like, you can't share it. This is why, you know, like we've had artists come out here and they're like, their agents will say, well, you can't share that song. Like, that's not part of that. You can't share it. You can't sing it. Because it was written by someone else, and if they sung it, it would be like a total breach, you know?
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I was thinking of an artist here, but who,
Interesting. So, I always think sometimes like bands that do, cover tunes of bands or whatever from the 70s, because that's the stuff I know.
Yeah.
They're actually promoting it because people say, I remember that song, and then they're interested in that song.
Yeah.
Whereas they would have never thought of it otherwise. So.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I think there's a level of
and yet you hear bands doing songs all the time, cover songs, right? So, yeah, I'm not sure where that's all at.
well, still you need license to do that, like unless you're playing like a non-professional gig or like a
Right.
non-recorded gig or a non-paid for gig.
Yeah, like when
Then
we
you
play
can
the
do as
car
many
show,
as
we
those
just-
you want.
Like
Yeah.
our band will go and play the car show, and we'll do old rock songs, or we do country songs and stuff like that.
But the minute you monetize something,
No,
you suddenly you're capped. Like you cannot share anyone else's material.
Oh, okay.
If you're monetized, you can sometimes like put your own spin on something. Like you could basically sing someone's song. It's not necessarily a copyright, like
Right.
a direct copyright
Right.
breach.
You're
If you
not making
sing
money
someone,
on it, right?
but if you make it your own song, sort of, then and give credit to the band that you're taking from, then that's not like a direct copyright because you're giving credit and you're not monetizing it. The minute you say like, okay, I'm going to charge for listening to me play BTO songs all night long, and you're going to pay me, and I'm taking credit for that.
Oh yeah, that way. Yeah, no, that's always been illegal to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard thing to control, like with the internet and all that stuff.
They have their ways. Like it's totally policed, and like there's a great movie about it. I think I spoke about it once, called the Mix Masters Manifesto, that came out in the early 2000s about copyrights and how it's getting so tight.
Oh yeah, you
And
talked about that before.
it's a very good movie. It's a little documentary, and but a wonderful way of like segueing into the whole digital age.
Right.
And how copyright is essentially gotten so difficult, like to steal anything in this world, like to borrow anything.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like gotten in many ways so restrictive that like if I wanted to borrow a melody, like "Happy Birthday to You," and borrow that melody, I could get sued by Disney for borrowing that melody. Like, essentially, I'll get sued for singing "Happy Birthday."
Yeah. Isn't that something?
And we could if we were living in certain parts of the world. So,
Yeah.
but the laws here in Canada are somewhat a little bit more humane.
Right.
Like a lot of poor folks who sing "Happy Birthday" to their little tykes don't always get sued. Like $2 million for a copyright infringement. So that happens in certain parts of the world.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's sometimes you wonder about all that stuff, and the same as plagiarism. Like you could say plagiarism or whatever. Well, can you or can't you? Because there's 7 chords and there's
I know
billions of songs.
Well, it's like creativity, man. Like, and that's what the whole. There's a philosophy that nothing we ever create is new. Like it's not brand new. It's all recycled.
Yeah, it's very hard nowadays. Well, when you think of the bands in way back, let's say in the 20s and the 30s, everything was new, right? Whatever style they did was new, and then you got into the 50s, rock and roll showed up, and every rock and roll song was new, and it had its own feel and sound. In the 60s, it changed, and then every song was new. Like those guys all had a blank page. They really did.
I don't know if that's true, or like I don't want to say true, but accurate, because a lot of that music was pulled from like jazz age and prior, and it just keeps going back.
Yeah,
influence, but there was definitely always something linking it from the next segment to the next segment.
That's what I mean. Like it was just they had a blank page. Like I know everybody influenced in certain
and
musically,
that's
right? But just a blank page. And now you try to write a song that's a unique melody.
Yeah,
Everything's been done, so slowly that blank page has gotten so full.
Yeah, it's a full page for sure.
So now.
Well, I think that part of the full page happening is that the problem with what's happened here is digitization of everything. So like someone comes up with a song and comes up with a name, Cats, and suddenly it's copyrighted and no one else can use it. So then it's suddenly in the record, and then it becomes so cluttered, like it's like driving down a freeway and you're kind of like choked out by like 20 lanes of traffic because all these songs that are coming at you, you don't have any more words to use. So you have to write, like, I don't know, it's kind of like we're all choked out from the digital age, if you know what I mean.
It's
like,
just, it's flooded. Like we're all just, it's just too much. Like if you turn on the radio, let's say, and you listen to, country music, they still have their charts. I don't know, I don't listen to the other ones, but they still have their number one and their charts and the songs that rotate and go off the charts and come on. And so they still have that in country music. But have you ever listened to it, that country music?
What?
I have. I've driven down the highway and I've tried to listen to it just to see what's going on. And you can listen to it, and people out there may agree or disagree with me, but you can listen for 3 hours or whatever, and you can't tell one song from the next. You cannot tell when it changes to the next song.
Yeah.
It's just every song is identical to the last one. And
but the point of that is that
people love it, because
it's
young
sort
kids,
of,
they're
it
all
turns
singing
into
these country songs,
But it's almost like an art of elitism, almost like it's sort of like, the art of playing country music these days is just to sound a certain sound.
Yeah, that's
and
what
it's
it
just
is.
like, but that's elitist almost, it's like.
Every artist's voice is the same as the last one, and song is the same.
And if you sound like a frog, you kind of get like kind of put to the back of the line.
Wow.
But
so it's
But I mean, what I'm saying with that is you're like there's certain things that are holding back creativity too, and so like there are many creatives out there who are doing just weird things with music and soundscapes and everything. And when I think of like sort of the discussion of everything's been done before, it also doesn't make sense when people are just churning out like country music that sounds exactly the same, and following just the endless drone of like country music that just like sounds exactly the same,
as long
and
as
they're
it
not
sells,
listening.
I guess.
But what, like, but this is the point that I find really, it's the marketing that is killing us, because there's diversity out there.
Yeah.
So why don't we bring in like
there's the odd person that comes up with their new ideas type thing, but that's rare. Just kind of everybody sounds the same.
But it's probably feeds itself, if you know what I mean. Like the more we get brainwashed to think we have to sound the same to make money at what we do best. If we're a musician, everyone's gonna follow that same rat maze, to the cheese in the shop.
Everything's been just commercialized, completely. Yeah.
So this is where I think like some of us have to set sort of a role.
But if you like it, like I talk to young kids or whatever, teenagers or in their 20s or something, and they'll say such and such a song they really like, so you can check it out on the internet, and you can listen to anything you want on YouTube, and so you go to it and listen to this person. It's a video and everything like that. But it sounds exactly like everything else. But that particular person liked that song.
I know. And so you find out
it's just it's relative to the generation. That's what it is.
But the other side of it, there is a side of that. But there's a side of just like people sort of like conditioning themselves to like only only one type of food, as opposed to green eggs and ham. Like trying the green eggs and ham. Have you heard that story?
No.
Well, that's a Dr. Seuss story, where there's the Cat in the Hat who's trying to get convinced that it's okay to eat green eggs and ham. It's actually really good. And this Cat in the Hat's just, no way, man. I just like my eggs regular. And suddenly this little cat, this other cat dude is saying, no, you got to try these green eggs and ham, and keeps pestering him. Finally, the Cat in the Hat tries the green eggs and ham, and it's the best thing he ever tried. So the story there is to try something different in life instead of doing the same thing over and over again. Like it's a rule, you know. We should be trying different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah,
nothing,
for sure.
but we're also being controlled in many ways by many sources. You know, like marketing is a huge control on us.
Yeah.
It's sort of why people buy tons of toilet paper at a certain time. You know, it's sort of marketing. It's marketing, or buy like things they don't need. You know.
Yeah. Well, music is, I guess, no different than anything else. It's perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's how you view it and how you like it, and if you like for instance, when in the '60s when the Beatles came out, I remember my parents' generation. They did it, and everybody at that generation all said the same thing. Beatle music, every song sounds the same. So they thought the same thing.
But would you say that the Beatles broke tradition, or did they follow tradition? Like John Lennon and Paul McCartney, did they break away from? Is that why they got super famous and
they had a sound that was well, it was nobody had done it before, like the harmonies that.
Well, that's
that
breaking
sort of
something. Like
yeah,
that's channeling something different.
Yeah, they had something different, and if you do or you figure out their songs or whatever musically, they were just so off the wall, like off the charts. Like these guys, when they started playing, they knew 3 chords like everybody else.
Right.
But they experimented in every song. They experimented, and you play a Beatles song now, it's just full of chords and little things in there that they didn't. So they were quite innovative.
Yes, that's the word.
They really were,
Yeah.
and and so I don't think they have 2 songs that sound the same.
No.
You know, even though you can tell instantly if it's the Beatles singing it, right?
Yeah. But you know, when I think of bands that definitely go innovative, like it's complicated because it's not an all or nothing thing. Like, so it's not like a sure thing, I should say. Like if a band is innovative, it's not a sure thing that they will get as successful as the Beatles. Like there's certain things, there's a complex array of things that happen with a band. Like there's that make that magic click and make the fame and all of that come, and the longevity, and just make the band super good. Because you need all sorts of resources to get that
absolutely.
good.
Like they had a manager, a very good manager, and they learned to play really well because they played the bars a lot, and they went to Germany and played the bars, so they learned their instruments very well. And then they got Brian Epstein comes in, and he sees something in these kids, so he starts to manage them, cleans up their act and all that stuff. And you can say all these things, you can say George Martin, and you can say all these things, but the bottom line is they still wrote these songs.
Yeah.
Those guys, like especially Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison too, but Lennon, McCartney, they wrote those songs. And I just read a thing this week on Ticket to Ride, and how they wrote that song, and John had started writing it, and then Paul came in, and they worked out their harmonies. But they did this all in 3 hours, is what the write-up said. And he had a little piece of the song, and then when Paul came in, okay, this is this, and this added this. They worked on their harmonies. They had their harmonies down pat. They had all the words. They had the intro. They had the ending, and they had everything in 3 hours. And they recorded it together with 4 other songs. They recorded 5 songs that day.
Yep.
And there were finished products that went onto a record.
Yeah.
In one day. They finished writing this song, and they recorded 5 songs.
But it took a lifetime to get to that point. Like these guys weren't wasting time either. Like they were. Yeah. I think every day of their life they probably suffered through immense moments when they were just like, you know, like there's no way that you could record an album that good or that like whatever
and
that
yet
song.
their music, like those 5 songs that they were like in the write up that I read, they're just all just super
but
good.
this is the way of the artist too.
Yeah.
Like many people like Picasso would do that too. Like Picasso would, by the end of his life, he could just quickly draw something and just sell it for $1 million because, but he'd draw it in 30 seconds, and yet people would be, how did you even draw that? But some of the naysayers would say, he drew it in 30 seconds, so it was garbage. But I think people think that art comes in the amount of time you actually physically make it in. No, it's like the build-up that comes with the life experience and everything.
It can be both. Sometimes it takes years to write a song because you'll do it in pieces, and other times you'll have it done in 10 minutes and it's done. You know.
But look at like you, for example. You look at you're a carpenter too and a musician, but you look at like something that like cupboard cabinets, and you know how it's built. I'll ask you, because I know nothing. I just see like boards and whatever, paint and chips and everything. But I ask you because you know you've studied how to build those things. Oh, yeah. So like you could figure out how to build something. You'd actually build a cupboard in whatever, a day or whatever, maybe less.
Yeah, I used to build cupboards.
But so what I'm trying to say is that we negate all the education and training and life experience that teaches us things in life. And now we're all about this instant grat where we just expect like people pick up a guitar and they strum it a few times and they're like, this doesn't sound like Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. And they throw it in the garbage and they expect it just to come naturally. It's instant grat culture. Yeah. So anyways, where I was going with that is that like I think to appreciate music even more in life and life in general, we have to respect people who know what is put into music, for example, or anything, but like to respect each other more. And that's, I think, is one of the bottom lines of life right now, where people are losing respect. They don't know, like, people are just fighting each other, and like there's a lot of disrespecting happening in the world because I don't know. Like I think people aren't recognizing the value of human experience anymore. You know, I don't know. Sort of thought.
Well, all goes back to buy a guitar. And
don't throw it away, though. Just because it doesn't sound like John Lennon. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's the point, you know? It's like...
Yeah. But, well, I mean... And, like, that's a good example, I guess, is learning how to play guitar.
Takes time.
You can take lessons and all that stuff, and you can go on the internet. Now you have lots of means of learning guitar, but every person that plays will have their own feel and have their own style, whether they like it or not. You know, so and to duplicate somebody, I guess it's kind of fun too. Like some songs, I'll learn to play it exactly like the artist, but not always. You know, you don't have to always mimic any somebody's guitar line, type thing. Even though it's really cool when you figure it out how they do it.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Well, you sort of have. It's like phases of development. I think
it's like the little squeals in there and all that. It's like neat, or all the stretches. Some stretches you do with your fingers. Sometimes you have to let go of the neck and do them, and just the different ways to get these sounds. And
well, yeah, I think you can be as creative as so creative and not be technically skilled, which doesn't really lead to too much other than some noise, or like creative noise is great, but if you study the art of music and technically learn it, however you learn it, I think there's a balance point is what I'm saying. Like to be successful as a musician, however you quantify that, to sound good as a musician, it takes study of the skill of making the music, but also your creativity.
Well, and to the listener too, each person is different. Like I was just reading something there about CCR. They have a song called Ramble Tamble. It came out on Cosmos Factory, and that happened to be their biggest selling album.
Yeah.
And so the lead song on that is called Ramble Tamble. And so the review on that is Music Critics, and this just goes to show you how it's how you listen to it is, whether you like it or don't. The one critic for whatever it was, critic for something, said that was John Fogerty's masterpiece of electric guitar work. Was that song Ramble Tamble, because it starts fast and it goes into a really slow psychedelic, and then it comes back and it goes fast again. So it's a fairly lengthy song, and wasn't really radio friendly because everybody wants 2-minute songs, right? And then this guy from Rolling Stone, a music critic said he listened to Cosmic Factory, and he said Ramble Tamble was the only dissatisfying song on the whole album.
Oh, jeez.
So two critics were totally different. The other guy said it was his favorite song ever of all time.
Yeah.
And the other guy said it was...
Well, there's a huge element of taste that comes into criticism.
For sure. That's what I mean.
But there's no doubt that today you can actually almost quantify quality of a song. Yeah. There's a great book I read called I'm trying to think of it, the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And in that book, there's actually the lead protagonist of the book. This guy is a teacher, a rhetoric teacher, like literature, books, fiction. And he actually had quite the remarkable way of actually breaking down the quality of to understand how to make something, quality of a song. Some songs are just good, or bands are just make quality songs.
Absolutely.
But how do we recognize that in life? Well, it takes experience to understand how a good song is written and how it's put together. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Whereas someone who just picks up a guitar and wails on it and just calls it his masterpiece and tries to upload it and just say it's done, and doesn't really put the effort into knowing, to know what making good music is about. Yeah. That's sort of the loss I find in our culture, because now we're all about instant grat. Anyone can make a song, and anyone's trying to. Yeah. And anyone's trying to be the band leader, but I don't think we're accurate on that. We're not recognizing that certain people are musicians and they work really hard to create quality products. And there's a lot of sort of superficial artists who are just kind of skimming it and getting really famous and rich, and that's their focus. It's sort of the same old country drone music.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the end result is that there's only one John Lennon or one Kurt Cobain or one Amy Winehouse, or there's only one Elvis Presley, these guys were the ones who put everything into it. Yeah. And there's a reason they're there,
There's something to be said for passionate, it's always the passionate musicians that really make it big, and that's because they put out a quality product, right?
That's right. And to make that, no one understands what quality is anymore. Yeah. They're sort of buying.
But just talking about all these different styles and stuff of music, there's still a market for every song or every style. There's still a market for it somewhere.
Not necessarily. I don't know. Well, maybe, but I'm thinking that
there's always somebody out there that will like what you do or what I do, or that sort of thing. So
it's getting narrower, I'd say, because we're all sort of a global society now, and we're all sort of almost following the same highway.
Well, yeah.
I think the more that we're on that internet highway is leading to a lot of narrowness. there's a whole
Yeah, it's
field
just
and
too,
there's a
there's just too
whole
much out
ocean.
there. Just way
But
too much stuff.
but we're only thinking with like a small part of our brains, I think, because I think there is a much wider highway that we can follow. On that note, I think, you know, this conversation in summary is all like about creativity and the artists and the music that was really of our lives that, to me, was that was the good music that we all love. And this conversation to me has been primarily about how we understand music and how the artist is valued in our society. So, like, I think our conversation was primarily about that. If I could summarize it, like how the artists are valued, the musicians, and I think there's still a ways to go. Is what I think. Like,
and we all like what we like, right? And that's different.
There's taste always,
It's always
but
taste.
there's always taste, but
and stuff.
and people just there's also good music connoisseurs like you, who like follow your taste is based on quality, you know, whereas some people's tastes are based on just like image or
well,
you know.
I still listen to the same songs that I did in 1970 or whatever. You know, the same songs that I loved then are still the same songs that I love now. You know, so you like what you like, but to me, they were quality songs. Like, they were just so good. They were all very unique in their own way. They've never been. You don't hear snippets of other songs in them. They're very unique type thing, and that a lot of that has disappeared. That everybody kind of plays the.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
There's certain attrition of music, like just sort of like watering down of the true artist, the good like music that came in the 70s. And you're not wrong. Like, I listen to music from the 70s too. I'm blown away by these songwriters.
Absolutely.
But there's no doubt there's something happening where there's an erosion of the quality.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, that's accurate.
Yeah, back then, when a song was released, for instance, and now for that same span of time, there's 100 songs released. You know, it's just that much more flooded. The whole
Well, it's
music
flooded.
industry.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Yeah,
But it's also quality. Like, you know, we don't want to. You're a carpenter, so we don't always like. You know how some people just like to do quick particle board fixes on a job that needs more quality. And so, green eggs and ham, man. That was 45 RPNs
Keep on rocking.
in the free world.